The new Nintendo 3DS XL has made it to North America, but it's only the XL version. Even then, it is still one of the best consoles to date. Many aren't aware of the additions to the new 3DS XL, but don't let that discourage you from getting one. The first thing you'll notice as you pull the console out of the box is the layout of the buttons and slots around the 3DS. First of all, the console now has a matte finish to it, and there are two new additional buttons, the ZL and ZR buttons. Also, the power button is next to the stylus slot, now in front of the system, so you see the power button without opening the system. The game cartridges also go in front of the console now too. The feature the new 3DS wants to flaunt now for sure is the new 3D tracking system. Back then, on the old 3DS, I had a lot of issues with the 3D because it didn't really work more than half of the time, really. You had to look at a certain angle and you couldn't move it. Every time you had to move your head, you had to look away, the 3D would reset or it'd be out of focus, and it was just so difficult to play because it made you stiff all the time. But with the new 3DS, the 3D will actually follow your face. It has a facial recognition, so even when you turn the 3DS, when you look away for a bit, when you look up, down, left, right, whatever, it will actually track your face, and the 3D will follow where you're looking, or where you're looking from, actually. There's also a new C-Stick on the console itself. Back then on the previous 3DS, you had to buy an add-on that made your console bigger than it needed to be, and you had to spend a couple more dollars just to get it. Now that it's on the console itself, it's way more convenient, and at first glance, it doesn't even look that comfortable. It's small, it looks like it's just a little piece. I actually thought it was a button at first. But upon using it in games like Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, it turned out to be really comfortable to use. It didn't feel like it moved, but seeing it being used in-game, it is very accurate, and you barely have to put any sort of effort, really, to control the C-Stick. Now, it's almost as if 3D is a thing of the past. Consoles in the previous generation tried to perfect it, but they couldn't. It was really uncomfortable to play 3D in any of the previous generations of consoles, including the 3DS. Especially with the 3DS, because almost half of the time you were playing a 3D out of focus. But with the new 3DS, because of the tracking system, you can play 3D from any angle, well, most angles you want to. And it's almost as if I can't turn off the 3D. I love to play with 3D. It feels natural to play in 3D now on the new 3DS. But even then, there are still some minor issues with the 3D. It's not perfect. The 3D goes out of focus every now and then, but not too often, because when you look away, it loses track of your face, since you're not looking directly at the screen and your face is basically out of the shot. But it only takes about a second, maybe even less than a second, for it to go back into focus. Also, there's a certain radius to it. It's not too small. It's actually a really good radius that you can turn a 3DS until it goes out of focus. And even then, it is still pretty good for what it is. Another issue I had with the 3D, even though it's probably just a minor issue, it's not going to happen too often, is that when I was playing Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, using the bow gun, the bow and arrow, any ranged weapon that requires you to scope in, the scope is dead center, but because of the 3D, it comes out a little off. For some odd reason, when I was firing bullets or whatever in the game, it went off center. It was going diagonally to the right, and it just wasn't going according to where I was actually looking. I think it's just an issue that the 3D is giving, but as I said, it's not that big of an issue because I don't really use that feature often in Monster Hunter. But maybe if you are interested in playing a game where your first-person shooting is very important, or first-person view, you might be a little turned off by the 3D. The system is very comfortable to the touch, and I could go on for hours playing the console. And if the battery didn't die, I'd say I'd even go on for the whole day playing on it. But even then, the console doesn't have any grips on the back, and the back of the console is really flat. So when you try to grip it in your hands are normally caught in a really awkward position. When I play, because I have big hands, I tend to keep my hands in an open palm position, because if I try to clench my fingers, my thumbs won't be able to move around a 3DS as well. So either way, my hands are caught in really awkward positions. But for me, I could actually go on for hours in that sort of position because I'm used to what the 3DS is. The console's actually pretty light though, even lighter than its older brother. That and the battery lasts longer too. You could get up to 6 hours of gameplay at the cost of a longer charge, but even then, it is still longer than its older brother. And if anything, the battery pack is replaceable. If your battery starts to run down, just get a new one and you're set. The new 3DS XL, unlike its smaller counterpart, doesn't have much options when it comes to customization. There aren't any faceplates out there on the market, and I don't even know if they will have any in the future. Also, the memory card is now tucked inside of the console. You're going to have to unscrew the plate on the bottom in order to take it out. But even then, how often are you going to change your memory anyway? Unless you decide to download games all the time on your memory card. Other than that, you won't really need to change your memory card that often. All the issues I have with the new 3DS don't even come close to outweighing how much I really love the new console. I've been playing a lot of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask 3D lately, and even Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. Even then, there are still going to be exclusive titles to the new 3DS. Even though none of them are out yet, you could still expect them, and they're coming out very, very soon. I really love the new Nintendo 3DS. I can't put it down, and if the console didn't require charging, I know I'd be on it 24 hours, 7 days a week. Nintendo already had a great console, and they improved it even further. It really doesn't seem like a huge jump from its predecessor, and it still looks very similar. There aren't too many changes. Essentially, it's a previous 3DS on steroids. But don't overlook the new 3DS. It is still a really impressive console, especially when compared to its older brother. If you already have a 3DS right now, you could hold off on upgrading, as there isn't much to the new 3DS for it to brag, since exclusives have yet to release. But if you don't have a new 3DS, definitely get this one now. Getting the previous 3DS for $30 cheaper isn't worth the features the new 3DS has to offer. The 3DS is kind of tough to get right now, as it is very low in stock in many stores. I was just lucky to call one day to ask if they had it in stock. Lo and behold, they did. I walked in and came out with a brand new 3DS, and nearly an hour after, they were already out of stock. If you can find one in stock right now, you can get the 3DS at the suggested retail price of $199. I'm Miguel Garcia, and this was a review of the new 3DS. Don't forget to catch our news briefs every Wednesday, our podcast every Thursday, and all the rest of our multimedia projects on theskylineview.com.